do you believe in miracles? Have you ever had a moment in your life where you literally tried every single thing you thought was possible in order to fulfill something that you really felt was threatening your life, until all of a sudden you were at this place of, I just can't do it, and you fully surrendered, and sure enough, within a short period of time, whatever solution you were trying to figure out, a solution found you, and boom, what you thought was unsolvable was solved. My friend, that's a miracle. You experience miracles all of the time, and maybe not that significantly. And today, on Through the Lens, we are going to look at season 1, episode 4 of The Chosen, with the miracle of the fish. We are going to unpack miracles. You are going to see how, in fact, at any given moment, you can choose the miracle and how they are already showing up in your life. So strap yourself in, friend, because today's trip is The Chosen. And we are going to dive deep into miracles and show you, no matter what you believe in, if you have a religion or not, that miracles are happening to you and that you have the ability to choose the miracle in any given moment. Okay. Season 1, episode 4, Simon is at this place where he needs money. He needs money bad because he's behind on his taxes, and the true threat is him being locked up. And if he's locked up, then he can't fish, and then he can't provide for his family, and then it is this domino effect, which in the end, always the biggest fear is that of our life being threatened. So Simon is like, I'm going to get this done. He brings his friends out. They go out into the water and they fish all night long. Mind you, Simon is being driven by fear. The fear of what will happen if he doesn't come up with the fish to pay the money he owes. So all night long, sure enough, what happens, friend, when we are sitting in a place of fear? We are sitting in the place of pain and separation and suffering, and what do we get more of? We get more of that, because that is what we are projecting out. Therefore, that is what we are bringing in. That's what happens with Simon. All night long, he doesn't get fish. And then the next morning, he pulls up to the shore, him and the other boats, and he's like, it's not going to happen. And he's kind of gotten to this place of just full surrender. This surrendering of like, I have no other way. I'm just going to have to deal with what the consequences are. And in that place of surrender, if you have ever been there, you know it. Because that place of surrender is one of the calmest places you have ever been, despite your external circumstances. Many of you know, if you watch any of my videos or you know me well, that a few years back, I was almost homeless. I was really chasing money. I was involved with a business group and building my business to be this empire, and it was money, 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 and lots of money was coming in, and I was spending more money than was coming in, and then all of a sudden it stopped. And everybody I thought that was there to support me was gone, and I was all alone. And I just kept pushing out of fear to try to get clients, to try to fill this leaky hole in my ship, and it wasn't working, and I had no money coming in. All my credit cards were maxed out, and I didn't know how I was going to eat, and I was living in Florida, no real family at the time or even friends that I could move in with. And I was like, I'm going to be homeless. And I realized, like, this is where it is at. And I kind of came up to that place of, you can't take blood from a turnip. And I was out of full surrender. And when I was at this full surrender of you can't take blood from a turnip, it was so peaceful because I had nothing to worry about. Because I had nothing of fear driving me. Instead, I was choosing to just surrender. And that's what Simon did. But guess what happens? When we no longer choose fear, fear is a choice, friends. Fear is not your natural way of being. So when you choose not to choose fear, guess what comes through? Love does. Because you are unconditional love. So you can't help but be unconditional love if you are not choosing the mask of fear to place on. That's what happens with Simon. You're probably like, but it was Jesus, Ashley. It was Jesus that showed up. Jesus is just a body. Jesus is a representation of what we are capable of, and we are all vessels for spirit, or whatever grand thing you think is out there. We are a vessel for that. And we can, when we choose love, we can be that vessel of communication for others as well. And that's what Jesus was. Jesus was the vessel for communication of the Holy Spirit to Simon and to a lot of the other people that were there, because in the end, there's a request he has. But I don't think we realize that. You don't need a walking Messiah to create miracles. You just need people to choose love, choose unconditional love, and it's not even a choice. I don't know why I said choose, because instead it's about not choosing. It's about not choosing the ego, not choosing fear and sacrifice and separation and that being your driving force, but surrendering and knowing that in the end you will be taken care of whenever you surrender. And again, taking care of, we all have these own visions of what taking care of means. Simon needed to catch fish with his friends overnight. His vision was them catching multiple things of fish out in the ocean. His vision was not being up at shore and dropping the net and the boat almost sinking because it was filled with fish, because that's what happened. And at first, when Jesus is like, hey, Simon, put the net in the water, Simon's like, and he immediately goes back to his recollection of the night before. What do I always say? The past, the ego will use the past to rob you of the present moment. And Simon almost allowed it. He almost used his experience of the night before to determine that it wasn't even worth him throwing in the net. Because last night it was futile and it didn't produce any fish. So why would right now be any different? But he stops. And of course, there's many reasons why he stops based on the relationship he already had with Jesus and everybody's hope that Jesus was the Messiah. But it was their belief in Jesus that allowed Jesus to provide them with these miracles, these sights and wonders. That is what it is. And it's not about needing to have the belief in Jesus, but you can literally believe that in any of your brothers, because we all have the same capabilities if we are coming from a place of love. Okay, so Simon does this, and he finally listens to Jesus, and holy crap, he throws the net in, and at first he gives Jesus this look of like, duh, yeah, nothing's going to happen, and then the boat almost sinks. It gets like pulled to the side, and I don't even know if there's any fish left in the sea based on what is in this net. And it's this beautiful representation again of what happens when we just surrender. And I'm not saying that your net is going to fill with fish, but what I am saying is you have released the weight that fear has placed on it. And only through releasing the weight can we allow the abundance that we are to come through. And I'm not talking about abundance of money or abundance of this or abundance of tangible objects. I'm talking about your true abundance, which is unconditional love. And when you're living in a place of love, my friend, and you choose the perspective of love, it doesn't matter what it looks like at the level of form. And we see that. And why do I say that? Because Simon was so hung up on catching those fish, my friend. Was he not? He was. He was like this is life or death, literally. His livelihood depended on it. Caught all the fish, and within a matter of seconds, his attention has shifted. And the fish no longer matter. He walks away from the boat and doesn't even think about how he's going to settle up his debt or anything like that, because all of a sudden Jesus is like, follow me. That's how you will repay me. And Simon, his focus has completely shifted to that, and that is where he's at now. Because it is about what is going on at the cause, not the effect, at the content and not the form. The fish were the form. The content was Simon moving from a place of fear to that of unconditional love, which is a miracle. He witnessed a miracle. He actually was the miracle and created the miracle. And you see that it just shifts everything. It shifts his perspective. It shifts his goals. It shifts everything in front of him. And we see how much the form actually doesn't matter because he just knows I'm taken care of. If we go back to my story, that's what happened to me. I really got to this place of surrender, and Patrick helped me uncover some money I've always had, but I had forgotten I had, and it helped me, and it covered everything. But I didn't look at Patrick as Jesus. I looked at Patrick as like, if I wouldn't have got to this place of surrender to share with him, that was the biggest piece, the hump. I was holding it from him because how embarrassing to meet someone and to be dead ass broke and a shit ton of money in debt. And when I finally got over that fear and I shared it with him, it was within 24 hours we uncovered, I think it was close to $70,000 in multiple areas, not just money I had, but tax return and other things. And poof, I no longer was carrying this burden, like mentally, physically, and financially, that I had 24 hours prior because I released it. I released the weight and I allowed love to come through. But again, I didn't say, oh, Patrick, he must be the Messiah because he did this. Instead, I didn't really know at that point, actually. At that point, I was able to see my surrender, and later I'm able to see we all are. We all are one, and if we are all one, we are all Jesus, my friend. Jesus just happened to figure it out before us. That's not our conversation today. Our conversation is the miracle of the beauty of the fish and how miracles show up every day in your life and how fear is holding you back from the miracle. Because the miracle is not choosing fear and allowing love to come forward. I know we've been trained to believe that miracles are these big signs and wonders like Jesus did when he came here, and yeah, we just used one. But we see from the other point of how it was Simon, how it was Simon's actions, Simon's belief, and his surrender that allowed this miracle to come through. Jesus didn't force anything on him. He provided him the opportunity to experience this, and you have that opportunity every single day, and I know you have experienced it, maybe even in the smallest of ways. Just think of that moment that you thought nothing could be figured out, and in the end, it did get figured out. Because what happened was you got yourself to a back against the wall moment, a forced surrender. Like Simon, not a choice, but now you know I can choose to surrender at any given moment and experience the miracle. What a beautiful day today. That was today's trip with The Chosen. I hope you were able to see how miracles doesn't matter what your belief or your religion, but it is literally your innate ability, my friend. At any given moment, you can choose not to choose fear and to allow your unconditional love to come forward and to fully experience the miracle and the happiness and peace that lies within you every single moment. Thank you so much for tuning in today. As always, remember you are worth it. Make sure to hit like, subscribe, and turn on your notifications for your weekly trip with Through the Lens. So much love. Bye-bye.